Hey, yo, it's David Gregory.
And Nikki, Llewellyn Gregory, and you're listening to Addicted to Betterment. It's a podcast for high achievers wired for sharpening themselves or those looking for a regular system to develop and level up their life. We've only got one shot at this life. Don't waste any opportunity to live alive and love your life. Let's do this together. Click on the follow button to make sure you get all of our episodes as they drop. So today's episode brings up a lot of emotions. We're talking about courage. And I think we must acknowledge that even the most courageous human beings, the goats in the world, right, go through things that challenge their courage. We all have that. So whether you're struggling to take a big leap that you've been wanting to take for a long time, or you're coming back from a setback, what's in your toolbox to help you find your courage again or sustain your courage? To build this toolbox is a lifelong investment. You'll use it forever. Helps all of us to stay healthy, mind, body, and soul. So I thought maybe I'd just share a story to bring this to life for myself, because I've gone through a lot of ups and downs with courage. And man, I struggle during those times. I beat myself up. And, I think about 5 years ago, I took the stage for a keynote. And I may have mentioned this before because it's always something that comes up. It's like rooted within me. I got to let it go. But it was so much learning while going through a very challenging time of divorce. I had this keynote engagement, and it was pretty high pressure, very big audience, lots of peers there. And I failed that engagement miserably. I was so off. I didn't have strong, uplifting voices feeding my mind. I was not tapped into who I am, my core values. I had so much disbelief, and it just set me up to not have the courage to be able to succeed. Another scenario that I think has been a regular scenario for me is sometimes people will say things, one simple thing. And I think it's a good reminder of the power of our words. Our words are so powerful, and they build or they destroy, but we have to be armed with the courage to overcome. So, David, I'd love for you to share a little bit of your experiences with courage to tee this up before we kind of lock into the definition of courage.
Well, first of all, Nikki, I'm really excited to be here in the studio talking about this subject that is a challenge for all of us. I think we often see courage as this, moment in a movie where someone is taking this big action that changes the world or it saves the world. And it's this courageous thing that we all look at, and we've seen them in movies forever. But really, courage is something that applies to our everyday life. And it's taking action outwardly on something that we feel or know we need to do inwardly. This is kind of how I boil it down for myself to simplify it. But I think back to, for me, how this applies is I remember years ago, I was a basketball player and ran and was very fit, and I snapped my Achilles. Man, that was painful. Please don't ever snap your Achilles because it's not a fun thing. But in that process, I was down for a long time, and man, did I put on the weight. And back when I used to go to the gym, prior to that, there was a personal trainer who would always be working with different people. And I used to make fun of him because he's working with people and doing these exercises. And I would, as a jock, I would kind of crack jokes and make fun of the exercises that he would have people do. When I came back from that injury, I'm heavier than I've ever been. I'm more out of shape than I've ever been. And I realized I need help. And one of the things I had to do, took courage, is to go to that personal trainer and say, hey, can you help me? I am overweight. I'm out of shape, and I need help to get back to my fitness level. And so for me, that it took courage to kind of humble myself and say, I need help. Another area that I think of just that applies to you and I together is, as we started merging our lives together and we've lived our separate lives and we find each other and we're trying to develop a plan for a great future. And we realize, man, we need help having someone help us achieve our financial goals. And when you and I went, we talked and researched, and we found a financial advisor that we believed in and knew could help us achieve those goals, to sit down with them. And he says, okay, what's your net worth? What are your assets? What are the things that you owe? Where do you stand currently? And here's the reality. It does not take courage to just continue to be mediocre. It takes no courage to be mediocre in any area in life. But in order to achieve excellence, in order to pursue goals, Sometimes it takes courage to sit down and be real and say, "Hey, here's where I am." Be vulnerable. It takes courage to be vulnerable and open. So those are two areas that I think of that apply directly to us. I think we deal with courage in every area of our life every day.
Yeah, so good. And I can so relate, especially since you and I sat down together with our new financial advisor. And if you want to make a change and you want to make a big change, it's like we could keep going. We're in healthy shape financially. But if we really want to be where we want to be, we've got to pull back the curtains, share all the things, the good, bad, and the ugly. And it takes courage to do that. And so, whether that is stepping on the scale in front of that personal trainer and saying, "Yep, here's my baseline," or opening up your books and saying, "Yep, here's my baseline." It's the commitment, the mindset that even in the face of something that's frightening or challenges us, we're ready to overcome. So, with that, I just looked up because I wanted to see for myself what is the definition of courage, and these two sentences came up. The ability to do something that frightens one and to have strength in the face of pain or grief. And so, whether that is counteracting that challenging comment that kind of hurts your heart that someone said about you, or going through a really transformational time in life and losing yourself. We're all human. We're never going to operate at the highest percentages, but how do we do it best we can? We really want to break down like what is the core to staying as stable and sturdy and being poised to overcome in the midst of all of this.
Yeah. So, Nikki, man, you just said that so perfectly. I remember the current job that I have, the current company that I work for. I remember when I first came to work, and still to this day, because I didn't come from the industry, I didn't have a lengthy career or a lot of experience in the industry. A lot of people that I work for and around constantly made comments. Well, you don't know this or you don't know that because you're not from, and they would make these comments exactly what you're talking about. And even though I've excelled, even though I've accomplished great things, I still hear those compliments. And it still takes courage to overcome those because you hear them and you feel them, and you're always going to have doubters. No matter what you do in life, you're going to have doubters in your relationship. You're going to have doubters in your finances. You're going to have doubters in your work. And if you have kids, I can promise you, you're going to have doubters. They are going to be your biggest doubters. But the bottom line is exactly what you said, overcoming the words that people say or people's opinions. Man, that takes courage. You said that perfectly. Thank you.
Yeah. So if we break this down and I think about them in this order for myself, and David, I'll be excited to see where you chime in on these four things. And like I said, in this order, I have to keep these priorities in order for myself to keep my courage muscle built up. So I'm going to tell you the four and then we'll break them down and would love to have you add some of yours into that too. So one is courage for me comes from realizing that I am not alone as a human being on this journey without a higher power, my God. And, my God is our Lord Savior Jesus, whoever yours might be, having a higher power relationship that helps you make sure that you're not alone and you're a little speck on this in this universe. Right. And we're not here to do it alone. And we're here to have God's guidance and we're here to have great people around us. Right. But number one is making sure that my relationship with God is strong and that I know that so much of my courage comes from that. And then number two is I have to know my core values and recenter in my core values as to who I am on a regular basis. Because when I do that, I can stand confidently because I know who I am. I know why I say yes or why I say no, or the decisions that I make or the leaps that I'm going to make. The third one is having borrowed belief in your life. That means a support system around you that pours into you and builds you. It's so important. If you just think about one person in your life that because they were there during a time that was so challenging and they told you could keep going, you can do it, right? You took their belief. And without that, it would have been really challenging. And then finally, all of these things ramp up to the courage, the muscle that it takes to try new things, to stretch, to say, I'm going to put myself out there. But I think it does go in order because you got to build to do that. But doing new things and celebrating your success or being able to look at, hey, I failed at this, but I tried. But everything really has to be set up for you to be able to thrive through that, trying new things. So, David, anything else you want to add in those, or do you want to dig into to these topics?
Borrowing belief can often help with our courage so much, which makes me think back to some of our previous episodes, the importance of who you surround yourself with. The importance of who you surround yourself with directly affects the courage that you show up with every day. So that's a pretty powerful statement.
So, David, when you think of what I was sharing around, this is really a system, like step by step sequence, if you will. I think both of us believe that courage many times comes from knowing that you're not doing it alone and there is a higher power with you. And the regular investment of the relationship with your God guides you to believe that, you're not alone and that you have strength through that higher power. I'd love for you to share like what that looks like for you.
Taking time in the morning to be centered and grounded in my core values with God. For me, that sets me up. I know that whatever I'm going to face for the day, I'm not reacting, I'm proactive. I've already set my mind on how I'm going to show up for the day. So, however the day changes or whatever challenges are presented to me in the day, and I know that I'm not alone, I know that, my core values, the center of who I am is solid. So I've already set myself up for who I am. And therefore, it makes being courageous or making decisions or taking action that normally might be a little fearful or a little overwhelming. I can do that with more confidence.
Yeah. The only thing I'd have to add there is I know that my courage many times with my relationship with God comes from, I call it being a vessel. I got a tattoo this year that it's on my arm, be a vessel. And if I'm tapped into that relationship with God and God is guiding my life, my confidence and my courage comes from knowing that I'm walking the walk that I was put on this earth to do. And so the more that I ask for guidance and pray and stay centered in that, it's like there's nothing else that can trump that. It's like a, confidence blanket that it gives you because you know that the Lord is guiding your life. And so for me, like I said, it's got to be foundational. And then really big topic here is around knowing our personal core values and our strengths being rooted in who we are. When we are off and it's like, I don't know my core values, I don't know my purpose, I don't know my strengths. Man, it's hard to take those steps because you have so much self-doubt. David, how about in your world of core values and standing tall in who you are? Share a little bit about bring that to life for us.
There's so much noise in our world, so much noise. Let's say politics, for example. If you listen to one news channel, you're going to be swayed one way. If you listen to another news channel, you're going to be swayed another way. If you look at one friend's Facebook feed, you're going to have these beliefs. And if you look at another friend's Facebook, they're going to have different beliefs and they conflict heavily with each other. For me, it's being completely grounded in my core beliefs and doing that, as you said, through my relationship with God. But what that allows you to do is it allows you to be comfortable and stand firm. And it takes courage to do that, but not constantly participate in the noise or be affected by the noise or feel like you have to fight against one side or another because you can just stand firm courageously in who you are in that area.
Yeah. And I think if we break down core values, it goes beyond these core words, if you will, that guide us. It's starts with knowing why you're here. And that's why I said the foundation for me is God, because then I build on that because that's where it comes from. Is I was put on this earth for a reason. And I think a huge airball that you just see a lot of people miss is not taking the time to really understand what are my unique gifts as a human being? What is it that I bring to the table that's different? Where do I get my fire? I get so excited to be able to impact this. My heart feels good when I do this. Spending time understanding why you're here, your mission to change the world in this very fast life that we all are going to live. Man, that gives a lot. And then to say, what are my core values? And to break those down, and let's just say, one for me is giving back. And so I know at times in my life when I get too caught up in all the things that aren't directly related to things that I care about, causes that I care about to give back to, I don't feel as confident. I don't stand as tall because it's so important to me to find ways to give back, whether that is, am I spending time mentoring someone and sharing something I know with other people? Or am I giving my time to volunteer and advance an effort that helps the world get better? Not just in my daily work, but in other things. So I think having those core values and knowing who you are and your strengths allows you to stand tall when you have the naysayers. Courage, going back to what is it? The ability to do something that frightens you, and you step out and you do something big or you overcome, you're always going to have naysayers. Always, like, that's just part of it, and I think we all have to embrace that. I know a lot of people actually in my life right now that anytime that someone says something that conflicts with what we're doing or they complain, they see it as a detrimental thing. "Oh my gosh, can you believe so and so?" It's really being curious to understand where that person's coming from and to know my core values and who I am, and am I really gonna let that rock my day or get my path off course? You think about a company and building core values, you sometimes take a year to 5 years to build that. Okay, that's a company. I'm gonna say an individual human being is more complex. It's a lot of work to really stand tall and like, who am I? Why am I here? Shoulders back, postured, and you can stand rock solid even in the midst of the biggest challenges. Not to say you're not gonna dip, you're gonna have dips, but it gives you your best posture to be able to overcome.
Man, the best way to take courage in an area that you might be struggling with, exactly what you said, know who you are. Take the time, do the work to truly know who you are. And if you can do that, step one in taking courage in an area that is a big challenge.
So we recently did this assessment with the Y Institute, and it was really helpful. I love assessments. I'm going to guess that a number of listeners here do as well. But this one was a little different. And one of the components that came back in this was around, I am a person who wants to find a better way, always. Like 2 months ago, I may have started a new habit for, let's say, the sales meetings that I run. I'm like, this is spot on. Yep, this is it. And I then 2 months later find a new way. And there's going to be naysayers in your life that'll be like, but you just said 2 months ago, this is the way we were doing it. Like, this was the way. It's a constant progress for me. It's just who I am to find a better way. If I can find a more efficient, system to do something, I'm going to adopt that. I'm not just going to stay in the place that I've always been. And so to bring that to life in a big way, and where this applies to core values is through my career, I am definitely one of those people that have been seeking meaningful work in the deepest of ways. Meaningful work to me is something that leverages my strengths, brings me to life, makes me feel like I'm making a difference. And I might have that for a 2-year period. And then something changes, like on my course to get me to the right place. There's some people that stay doing the same thing their entire life. I'm not picking on them. I'm saying to myself, I have found a lot of better way in my career, and I've had a shitload of naysayers. And for a while there, it was like, wonder what she's doing now. And it really used to rock me until I got to the place that I married my core values and understanding who I am with the decisions I make, that I'm an entrepreneur. I am very wired for betterment. It's the podcast, and it's never going to be super consistent. Now, I need to be super consistent in my relationship with God, in my efforts with my husband, in taking care of our home, right? Those, yes, absolutely. But when it comes to my pursuit of meaningful work in life right now, I feel like I get to are there a lot of challenges, uphill battle in doing what I'm doing? I do want to say there's a lot of that. But I live so fulfilled in what I do that it brings emotion to me on the regular basis. And to know, to be standing tall and like, this is why I'm here. This is what I'm doing. And yep, this is why I change. This is why I make changes. And so for people, what is she doing now? I've got to this place where I don't care. I am here because I know why I'm here. And I'm going to make all the changes that I can to, in my true core belief in what God is telling me to do. I'm going to keep taking those steps and stay true to what I know because I've done the work to know who I am.
Yeah, that's good. I feel like the second piece to taking courage is, first of all, we just established in order to take courage in an area of your life that is a struggle, you have to know who you are. And you just articulated that so well. Congratulations to you, first of all, for doing the work to find out who you are. But the second piece I feel like is you have to know what you want. If you're going to take action and utilize courage in an area, you're not going to be able to do it if you don't know who you are, if you don't know who you really are, not what you're trying to posture, not what you're trying to pretend, not that. If you don't know who you really are, so do the work.
Mhm.
But if you don't know what you really want, you, one minute you're chasing one thing, one minute you're chasing another. But once you discover, as to your point of, man, this is what I really want, you're not going to be able to utilize courage and take action that you're fearful of, you're afraid of for all the reasons, unless you know what you really want. Want to dive into that a little bit for us, Nikki?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that came to mind is you can chase and pivot because of scarcity, or you can chase and pivot because of abundance. And
Ooh,
running from
ooh,
something
so
to
good. So
pivot
good.
and change versus I'm pursuing something because I'm clear on where I'm going, very different things, right? So,
So, Nikki, can you repeat that one more time? That was so good. People need to hear that again one more time, what you just said about chasing and pivoting. Can you say that again?
yeah, I mean, I think if you break it down, we can chase and pivot and pursue new things. And there's two sides to it. One is running from the scarcity side of it is I'm hiding, I'm running, I'm doing something else to just restart. And because you're running from something, the other side is I am clear on who I am and I'm going to pursue that, that North Star. And I'm going to change as much as I can and be confident in my changes because I know my North Star.
Man, we could literally end the episode right now with what you just said. That is the definition of courage and how to activate it. Well said. So help us unpack a little bit about figuring out what you want and how that can you can utilize courage best when you know exactly what you want.
Well, I think that the core here, because I was thinking like, I want to be very clear that this was not a like, Nikki did this all by herself. Like she just figured it out. And I still haven't figured it out. Coaches and mentors. I have invested in coaches, mentors, programs, workshops over and over. It's going back to the title of the show, Addicted to Betterment. So you have to invest in other people, like David talked about a trainer to help him with his health. You have to have coaches and mentors around you to help you advance. And I talked about the alignment or the stair steps of my foundation is God. Number two, knowing my core values and who I am in this part of core values and who I am. Does God help with that? Yes. But people on earth help with that enormously. There are incredible people out there, coaches, mentors, and programs and workshops. And you got to do them. Like you got to take the leap and you got to do these things. And I think this kind of rolls into this borrowed belief support system portion of courage. We've talked before on the people you surround yourself with and the power of that. And you look at a time in your life that you had people that were negative and broke you with their words and things like this. As much as you need to stand true and know yourself, as strong as someone can be, words can really hurt. And the things people say can either build us or the opposite. And so, borrowed belief, having people around you that believe in you and you do the same for. In a few minutes, we're going to talk about how you do this for other people. So this isn't just all about like us and our personal journey and our just personal development, like how we help others through that as well. But borrowed belief is so important, and I'll bring it to life in the most simple way. For years, I've been a LinkedIn fan. I love relationship building. It's one of my core values is building relationships and sustaining relationships. LinkedIn has been an incredible tool for that. I'm pretty sure I hopped on LinkedIn maybe the year that it started and have done a lot of work around that and helping others leverage it. But I used to tell people One of the most powerful things about getting recommendations and giving recommendations, I'm talking about like the feeding ourselves first. So don't hear what I'm not saying. I would say collect these recommendations from those that say this great stuff about you. You want to make sure that other people know the great work that you do, because third party is much more powerful than the words that come out of your mouth about yourself, right? But here's the other piece is I said on the most challenging days, lean into those words that you see written on your LinkedIn profile, recommendations, the stories that other people have shared about you, because one bad day, one bad scenario is not reality, right? People leave recommendations because of the compound effect of what you've done in their lives. They didn't leave a recommendation because you touched them this one day. Usually it's because of the consistent habits that you've done to pour into people, and to be able to look back and read those words that other people said about you is just one simple way of seeing what borrowed belief can look like. And I used to use that as a practice, especially in sales. And I working with sales teams. You go up and down, right? You have really great months or really great days, and then you have really challenging ones. How do you stay emotionally consistent through that, through the climb of reaching those sales numbers, and not let the one day get you down? And just reading what other people have said about you, man, it's just going to be so powerful.
Think of, as a leader, the what Nikki just said. If someone, the power in sitting down with someone, you use the sales example, sitting down with someone who says, man, your sales numbers are terrible. What in the world is wrong? Why are you struggling? Come on, you can do better than that. And pointing out where you failed, pointing out the things versus the things we talked about, like me going to a personal trainer. You know what was powerful when I went to that personal trainer? I was heavier at that point than I'd ever been in my life. And when I said, man, I really want to change this, I want to get in shape, he was like, yes, you can do it. Absolutely, man. You can be more fit than you've ever been in your life. We're going to put together a plan and we're going to get you there. I promise you can do it. And I went from being depressed and being anxious, feeling terrible about my health, to having belief. Man, I'm excited to put the work in because I know I can do it. And the power of sitting with that sales leader who doesn't point out, oh man, you're having a terrible day. You suck. Obviously, you're not doing things right, but says, hey, you can do it. Hang in there. Borrowing that belief, the power in that, incredible. Incredible. If you don't have people in your life that are doing that for you, find them. If you
Mhm.
don't have people in your life that aren't pouring belief into you that you don't have for yourself, seek those people out.
So we've talked about God's guidance. We've talked about strong core values. We've talked about borrowed belief. I think the more towards the top of the staircase is because it has to build for you to be able to do this a lot of times. Try new things, stretch yourself, reach, put yourself out there. Every time that you do that, think about a time right now. Think about a time that you did something. What's the one thing you've done this year that's new? And you took the leap. You're like, man, like celebrating that. The more that you try new things and you reach and you stretch and you try it, celebrate that you tried. We've already had an episode on this and we'll talk about it a lot, and embrace the failure of it. It's like, but I put myself out there even if I did fail. And failure is one of the greatest teachers, and it will build you. As long as you have the right mindset for failure, it can really build you. But the core here is step out, try new things, because a courage killer is, dang it, I didn't do it. Beating myself because I upset because I didn't do it. And doing new things is such a courage builder. And I just encourage you for the things that are big stretch things or maybe a simple thing, right? But have the courage to do the things that you know you're here to do.
If you're listening to this today, be a courage builder, not a courage killer.
Yes. So, David, I want to kind of take this angle before we wrap up about the power of being courage for others. This is a journey, a two-way street here on earth. We have humans. The most amazing component of interaction would be another human being, right? I love my dog so much. You have no idea the depth of how much I love my dog and dogs in general, but nothing is more powerful than a human relationship.
She really does love her dog that much, I promise.
Yeah, she's something. And so if we think about our deposits, our pay it forward, our giving, and how it ties into courage, what's better than helping someone else believe in themselves? What's better than helping someone else know why they're here, and whether that is to help them have a relationship with God, find their core values, introduce them to a coach that really helped you, to just build them up on a really tough day. Again, emotion, like going for the North Star. It's like I've learned that nothing fills my cup like being able to watch someone else succeed. And so this whole journey of figuring out courage for ourselves, I think is a wonderful payoff, and it's a wonderful experience. But being able to walk alongside someone that you were one conversation or 10 conversations, and you watch that person take the step and change. It's one of the most powerful things that a human can do for another.
I can't tell you how many times I've thought about reaching out to that personal trainer and saying, thank you. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for believing that I could reverse the trajectory that I was on with my fitness at that time. And if we just truly pause and understand the power of our words, the power of how we interact with each other. And if you also think, in addition to that, that every single person in life is struggling with something, is fearful of something, is feeling overwhelmed of something. And each one of us every day have the ability or the power or the opportunity to do what you just said, to be a courage builder and not a courage killer. I'm going to adopt that. And if you're looking for real fulfillment, real joy, it's easy to get caught up in seeking that for ourselves and trying to do our own achievements or overcome our own fears. You take a moment and pour into someone else and see them overcome fears, objectives, and take courage and do action, take action and achieve something that they didn't think they could. Man, that's the ultimate fulfillment. You'll find more joy, more satisfaction in that than you ever would in your own achievement. I promise you.
Totally. And I don't think anyone plans to cry. But I did say something earlier about, like, when you know your North Star and you are clear on why you are here, it brings you to emotion. And for years, so I hired a coach at a very young age. I've shared Tommy Richardson with that name, I'm sure, on here because it's just been an integral part of my life. So at a very young age, I was like 25, wrote a check to a coach for the first time and took that leap, and it's been one of the best things I ever did. But he started with me in my coaching journey to identify who I am, why I'm here, my core values. And for the longest time, it was to inspire people to their true potential doing what they love. And what has then built this, company now, People Forward Network, and all the things I've done along the lines of employee engagement is doing what they love. I feel like our service here on earth is so much of like our I say title, I mean our role in what we do 40 plus hours a week. And whether that's in the home or out of the home or volunteer, when you are aligned in that, man, the impact that you can make when you're like, this is my role. And so just recently, so it's been, gosh, 15 years. I've really been pursuing to inspire people to their true potential, doing what they love. And a lot of this comes with courage. Like, how can I inspire them to take that leap? But I have shifted it since taking the Clifton Strengths and the why assessment, a couple things recently, and some new coaching conversations. And this is mine now, to inspire people to dream and take action towards their ideal life. And damn, does that take courage. It takes courage to dream. It takes courage to share the dream. And it takes courage to keep going even when you think you can't. And I, I just, talk about addicted to betterment, like to wire myself and work on myself to a place that I know who I am and why I'm here. But then to be able to see how the work that I do to help build other people and watch them climb the mountain and watch them be, celebrating themselves. Dang, I didn't know this courage topic was going to be this powerful, but it's been really awesome. And we just encourage you to think about how courage in your life applies to your own personal pursuit and how courage shows up and how you lead other people forward.
Wow. It's amazing how often I personally get inspired by our conversations that we do on Addicted to Betterment. Nikki, thank you for being on this journey with me. And To those of you who have listened to this episode with us, thank you for being on this journey with us as well. Let's try to recap all this with 3 action steps. Number 1, here we go. Identify the biggest area in your life it's been difficult to muster the courage to take action. We all have them. What is it for you? Number 2, courage is not an either you have it or you don't. It's not that. It can be built. Build it. Use the tools we talked about in the episode. Don't do it alone. Know who you are. Use borrowed belief. Figure out how to build the courage. Number 3, it's not just about us. I know we often feel that way. I'm guilty as well. But this is not just about us. Be a courage builder for someone else. While we hope that by listening to this episode, you discover something with us that enables you to apply courage in your own life, we equally hope that it inspires you to pour into someone else and build courage in their life as well. Imagine the incredible ripple effect this could create. Let's do this. Join us in being a courage builder, not a courage killer. Let's go. So, you just listened to this episode. Now, join us in being addicted to betterment. Subscribe to the show, share with your friends, tag us, and please take a moment, leave a review. Yeah, we do want your stars, but we really want the feedback.